Happy Monday, everyone. I'm excited to talk about what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm dealing with right now what is called the high holy holidays for Jewish culture. Now, what's interesting about this to me, maybe you guys, if you watch like all of my videos, you probably heard at least at some point that I do enjoy hanging around Jewish people. And the reason why is because I'm originally from New York, and so being originally from New York, you are influenced by Jewish culture in the least bit that at least you get school off and work days off for all these holidays, especially these holidays coming up. And so the first one that we're talking about is Rosh Hashanah, then you have Yom Kippur, and then you have Sukkot. So the reason why I'm talking about this, and from a metaphysical point of view, is because I was sitting there talking to a Jewish lady yesterday, and she is someone who is one of those people who studied and studied and studied. Kind of rare, because one thing I find that the more and more you hang out with certain Jewish people, and they really don't know that much. They know the traditions, they know what to do on the day of the tradition, but they don't know the breakdown of what happened and why. This lady did. And so interesting. Now, one of the other reasons why I enjoy Jewish culture is because you have to realize their whole rise and their, I would say, sense of alchemy that they use is based off of slavery. So everything that Jewish people have, their sense of abundance and all that in their mind is their birthright because of the slavery of their ancestors. Now, Black people, of course, most Black people are not Jewish, but none of them really, as a culture, you realize we never really take on that narrative, except for the few Black Jews, but they don't even really, because I actually know Black Jews, and not on that level. They're still very much, they remind you of Black Christians, that praying Christian. Whereas when I spend time with Jews who are on the white side, the pale side, they love to tell that slavery story. You will never see people more happy to tell a slavery story than them. They love to tell the story because it justifies for them all of their financial abundance right here on earth. Okay? Fascinating, right? So now, saying all that, let's talk about the metaphysics of what my interpretation of what she was sharing with me about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. So Rosh Hashanah, well, first we have to realize the exciting part of this is that this year it's paired up with the new moon. So the new moon is going to be the 19th. Rosh Hashanah starts the evening of the 21st. Okay. So Rosh Hashanah, some people don't know, Rosh in Hebrew talks about a head. And then the Hashanah part is about new beginnings, new head. So you're essentially clearing out everything in your head to start new. Now think about what that means on a metaphysical point. So everything I'm saying here, think about it from a spiritual perspective, a non-physical perspective. But the great part is when I get to Sukkot, we bring it all back, okay? So in this idea that you're clearing out your head, this is a new year. So this is, and you're pairing it up with that new moon. New moon also means new beginnings. Ooh, isn't this exciting? So if those of you guys who are into rituals, this is a really good time to start your rituals of thinking about becoming new, becoming fresh. This is the new time to become fresh. And then also this is a new moon in Virgo, and you can think of Virgo as a sense of innocence, purity, groundedness, all those wonderful things. There's so many things to pull off right now to enrich your rituals if you're into it, and just enrich your intentions, just pulling off of all that energy. There's so much going on, and you realize there's a whole group of people right now who are essentially fueling this with their rituals. Jews have rituals for all these things. So it's like, hey, hop on it, enjoy it. All right. So you're starting with a new beginning. You're clearing everything out. This is the beginning of a new year. And so Rosh Hashanah goes all the way to Yom Kippur. Now, the great thing about Yom Kippur is I'm laughing because my aunt always used to make a joke. She goes, this is the day all the Jews are supposed to be apologizing to everyone that they've done wrong. And she goes, I'm about to go outside and see if I get an apology. She goes, and I've never gotten one. So it's always a joke of like, where's my apology? Because I know you did something wrong. You look for the Jews to see if they're going to say anything. But really, they always back away from that concept. For them, it's it's a day of atonement. It's a day of them working to observe their sins that they made over the year and either apologize or fix it or let it go. Remember, new beginnings. Rosh Hashanah meant a new head. So there's this whole process of creating a new head. Freshness, newness, letting go of everything from the past of that last year, and now you're coming in new. Now think about what that means for you guys. You guys might be bored with something. You might be bored with your career. You might be bored with your love life. You might be bored where you are spiritually, and maybe the things that you've been studying, the things that you've been doing. What if you use this time for a new head? And realize this is something that I'm going to throw out there, that you can go right now to all the Walmart, Spirit, all the Halloween shops, and you can get a skull. And you can do some head work on yourself, thinking about a new head. You can create a ritual based around that. Ooh, that's fire right there. So think about that. This is the perfect time to do it. So I'm making this video in time for everyone to go out there and do some dope stuff with this time. So think about that. So from that time, you have these days where you're essentially meditating on that, and then Yom Kippur happens, and then bam, you sit there and you are, I think you fast on that day. Now you can look at the details of what Jewish people do. I mean, Google it. Can't tell you everything. I want to give you the symbolism of it and then go with it. But you're dealing with letting things go. Now, how I see it is this. Now, I make it personal, right? To me, if I'm thinking from a metaphysical point of view, I see Rosh Hashanah, a new head, clearing things out, right? I see Yom Kippur as a sense of forgiving yourself, right? Forgiving yourself, forgiving all those things that are essentially, that might be in the way. Because once you decided you wanted to clear everything out for the new year, how the ego works and how your brain works is all the stuff that's been holding you back, or all the stuff is going to come up. And then it's like you have to make a decision to either let that stuff go, let the guilt go, or live with it. Right? So Yom Kippur could be that moment where you're like, all right, you create a ritual for that. You let it all go. Maybe you burn things, whatever. You let those things go, and you could be working with that skull the whole time. And remember, this is also the time of the harvest. So now we go to Sukkot. So think about all the seeds you've been planting, not just this year, but last year. You've been planting seeds. Everyone has. There's been things that you've been wanting to come forth, right? But in order to manifest anything, I've said this before, you have to let things go. Well, Rosh Hashanah helps you let things go. And then Yom Kippur helps you remove all the blocks. Now you could even start to layer on some deities into this, the ones that clear the ways, for Yom Kippur. You could take on another deity that's about that newness and freshness, the sweetness of life. I mean, I'm calling out all these in my mind right now. So you could connect all of that to help you along with this process. And then it's time for the harvest, prosperity, Sukkot. So this is interesting about Sukkot. So Sukkot is a time for, they call it the Feast of the Tabernacles. But the lady, the way she described this to me was so beautiful, because I started to think about I thought about it in a spiritual sense, very like, what it meant. I was thinking about chakras and all of this, because this whole process, you realize you're dealing with the upper chakras, and you're also dealing with manifestation. All right. But after you're clearing out all this stuff, then you're able to bring it in. And so then the terms as above, so below, as within, so without start to come through with Sukkot. So Sukkot is a time where it references a time when Jews were going, they were in the desert, for the 40 years. And they would go out, they were farming, and when they were bringing in their harvest, they would put it under a tent. But the thing about the tent is that it had to have 3 sides and then a open top. That open top was so they could see the stars at night. Now the men would eat in that tent, and they would sleep in that tent. Now think about that, what it means from a spiritual sense. You are opening up your crown chakra, right? And you are wanting to take in the energy from darkness and those little speckles of light, right? Because from darkness comes light, am I right? And you're wanting to bring that in, and that energy is coming onto your harvest, all the things that you've been manifesting, right? And remember, you cleared the way with Yom Kippur. You cleared the way, you opened up that tent, you cleared the way to now fuel your desires. So now you're sleeping and eating under that. You're nourishing yourself, and you're going into a state of nothingness to receive. All right. Okay. So then the next part, and this is historically what they did, was then they came to the point where they would take that harvest and then bring it to the temple. Now how she describes it is that there wasn't like many temples, there was one temple, and they all went to that one temple. Now once again, let's look from a metaphysical point of view. What is symbolic for the temple? We know what temple means, body, right? And body is our physical manifestation of ourselves, right? So now you're taking in all of that without, as without, so within, and you bring it into the temple. You bring it into your physical experience. Do you see what that is? That all that is manifestation, and working with the cosmos to manifest what you want. Working with darkness, dark energy. From darkness comes light. Opening yourself up to that. You've already gone through the ritual process of being able to do that, and now you're manifesting it into your physical self, your physical life, the temple. This is what she described to me. Now, you know, I don't know any Jews that watch my channel, so they may disagree or agree. I don't care. I'm explaining to you something that excited me because I was like, wow, there's so much. And I read the Bible every once in a while, and just for fun, because it's very sexist. There's so much like disdain for women in general in the Bible, but once you can get over that and you start to hear some of the stories and weed through and go behind, you start to see this is a very metaphysical tale, and you have to read. And most people do not read. When I say if you're going to read it, but also have a sense of interpretation. Look at it from metaphors and not actually happening. And so so when she's telling me the story, she's telling me as if it's actually happening. I'm not quite sure she felt that way, but when I'm hearing it, I'm starting to break it down in symbols. And I'm like, oh wow, this is exciting. So this is really the time of the harvest. And we know that this is the harvest time anyway, right? But we know that we're not just talking about food, we're talking about bringing forth what you're seeking to bring forth. So why not use this time? And so Sukkot happens, let me get the dates right, if you guys really want to play around with it. You have Rosh Hashanah starting the 21st, right? The evening is the 21st, and then it ends. And then Yom Kippur, after it ends, as Yom Kippur begins, the 30th of September, and that's just one day. And then you have these days where it's separate, and then you bring in your harvest between these days, sundown, the 4th of October to the 11th of October, and that's Sukkot, y'all. If this isn't a great time to play around with your magic and manifest, I don't know what time is. So I want to throw that out there. Enjoy this time, whether you use it or not. Maybe this is going to inspire you to look for those rituals that people have been doing for a long time, and see what the metaphysical line is behind that. See what the symbolism is behind that. See what is hidden in these stories, because they're fascinating. So that's that story. I wanted to share that with you guys. Hallelujah, holla magic, right? Magic. And as always, like, subscribe, share this video. Say what you think. What do you think about that? I mean, I was so fascinated to hear the story. I thought it took me somewhere. What do you guys think about it? Comment below.